Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/ProRevenge. In today's episode, don't start a meeting by ending the meeting. Not my job or my job. Make up your mind. Too lazy to do your own reading and getting me to do your job for you? Okay. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Don't start a meeting by ending the meeting. My work environment is less an environment and more so a conglomeration of duct tape, spit, and cussing. I managed, among many things, a set of rentals, accounts receivable, and customer database analysis. Essentially, our company's bus factor was far too high-low. Another important bit that I handled were various legal documents that the state requires meticulous processes to be followed, and allows for a digital or physical paper trail. I opted for digital. Now, my boss kindly provided me a Pentium 4 dual-core computer that he found at the bargain warehouse for about $40. I had the most sophisticated workstation in the business, for context. This wasn't quite enough for database management and analytical software to boot up more or less process a dataset, so I called up our IT guy, who worked for the boss's friend's sister-in-law's business, 200 miles away. I go, "Hey Tim, I need to add my personal laptop to the company network. Can you make that happen?" "Sure, I'll be down to that location in a week or two. Can it wait?" "Sounds perfect, Tim." So Tim shows up. We get the boss to rubber stamp that this is all okay, and I have remote access to the servers and some annoying corporate asterisk mandated securities on my laptop. Which, no big deal, they stay out of the way. Asterisk Tim's corporate. My boss doesn't know a computer from a VCR. We didn't have anything like a software policy either. I think some computers had Office 2007 installed, but that's clunky and makes data transfer complicated. It's the 20-teens, there's no need for that. I do all of my work on a Google Drive account tied to my work email. This is great, because I can hot swap my workstation to wherever the boss wants me today. Sometimes he likes to pretend I'm a secretary and throws me in his office. Sometimes he thinks I'm a technician and puts me at a station with no computer. Whatever. Data is transient. Anyways, things have been tense recently. I've moved almost all of my job to digital, and the boss thinks that means I don't work anymore. Obviously, an office monkey with no papers is an office monkey with not enough work. Now, he wasn't exactly wrong. I had been automating things and was doing the job of about 6 people. How can I do the job of 6 people without the boss knowing? Easy. He likes to manage by the seat of his pants. One day he fired a maintenance person and just rolled the job into the receptionist, driver, and technician jobs. One day he decided that the sales team could handle marketing. Surely buying a single $2,000 camera is cheaper than having a professional do shoots each week. Besides, Gorilla Handycam sales pitches are in vogue, it'll be great. Moving on, after 2 years of shuffling I had accumulated a large amount of jobs. Many of them tedious. And, with the right tools, made by me, at home, on my personal laptop that happens to be able to connect to the network, a good 4-hour job can be completed with about 10 minutes of sorting and parsing data. So the time comes. We all know it's coming. One of the suits tipped me off that the particular suit whose payroll is wasted on chumps like me had propositioned the boss that a pair of receptionists can do the work I do for cheaper. Just hire some college kids, work them each 18 hours a week, it'll be grand. Knowing that, I backed up everything to my personal Google Drive account, but of course did not delete anything from the company-owned one. Like I said, the state has a vested interest in these processes, and I knew in my heart of hearts that the company couldn't be trusted to maintain records. I didn't want to be on the hook for that in 6 years, so I kept a copy. I figured it would go smoothly. I'm called to the big office for a meeting. There's too many suits. My supervisor gives me some side-eye. It's not a surprise. I carefully make sure to click log out of all locations on my Google account and tuck my laptop into my car before heading upstairs. The meeting starts with the boss saying, "Well kiddo," yes, he calls me kiddo. Since I'm not 60 years old, I'm obviously a child. "Well kiddo, I'm sad to say that I was wrong. I shouldn't have hired you. You're fired." Well, that was blunt and rude. So I stand up, extend my hand across the table, and prepare to thank him for the last few years. Not so fast. Sit down, we have things to discuss. Ha ha ha. What? I sit down for a moment, in brief shock. The adrenaline starts to pump and my fingertips are cold. Boss begins to tell me all of things they need from me. Contacts. Account statuses. Explanation of discrepancies on AR accounts. Documentation for state interests. All things that, as his competent employee, I could have printed and sitting on his desk in moments. I decide to comply with him, starting the meeting by saying I'm fired. Where I live, either of us can stop the employment situation for any reason. He had legally fired me. I counter him, well, boss, I don't feel particularly comfortable accessing your network since I'm not an employee. He exploded. Think of Karen, a millionaire Karen with little brother syndrome who wants to be John Wayne, but looks a bit too much like Smokey the Bear's fat cousin to get the role. His explosion was violent. Spit everywhere. I'll save you the details of how he stalked me to my car and demanded the employees form a barrier. He called me a few times. They went to voicemail as I drove to a public Wi-Fi hotspot. I carefully removed my laptop from their network. I drove home, unpacked my work lunch. My phone hasn't stopped ringing. He probably had a receptionist being paid minimum wage to hit the redial button. Eventually I answer a call from his cell phone. He makes some demands. I very flippantly offer to come to work for him at 10x my rate. He yells some more. An hour later, he's pounding on my door. I don't want to deal with that. I know he carries a loaded pistol in his car, again, cowboy emphasis on the boy. The cops escort him away, and I email a copy of my security footage to the responding officer. He thanks me. The company doesn't flounder, of course. Bossman is a millionaire, and has been very carefully losing tens of thousands of dollars a year while operating his business. He may have lost some more in the interim. But that's not my concern. My concern is collecting my unemployment. And wouldn't you know, I was fired a few days before fall college class selection begins. I decide to take a few master-level classes. I've had my BA for a while, might as well get some more school in on the boss's dime. Classes go well, and I coast through spring semester by tapping into a bit of savings. And wouldn't you know it? The pandemic happens, and my unemployment benefits are extended. Guess I'll take some summer classes. And those extended benefits were at 3x the base unemployment rate? Gee whiz, guess I can take a full set of fall classes too. And then the state extended it for another 3 months at double the base? I have winter sessions sign-up date marked on my calendar. The boss man calls me this morning. I coyly thank him for firing me without cause a year ago, and let him know I made the dean's list last semester. He tells me to fuck off. He called to take me up on my deal. He'll hire me at 5x my rate to give him some information. I remind him, wasn't the deal 10 times my rate? Fuck you, 5x is too much. And I only need you for an afternoon. Well, I've been thinking about it. My unemployment benefits run out in a week or two. So I'll do it. I'll contract for you. I want 20x what I was making. 40 hours minimum. Paid in advance. Oh, and written scope of work. I'm only doing the work you say you need done during negotiations. Fuck you, I'll give you 5 times and a day of work, and that's final. No, thanks boss. I have to get back to the classes you're paying for. Thanks again. I hang up. He calls back an hour later, just moments before I started writing this actually. It's actually his daughter, the comptroller of the company. She says she spoke some reason to the boss. He'll hire me at 20x my rate for 40 hours of work, half paid up front. Actually, it was 100% up front, not half. Fine. She starts telling me what needs done. Turns out, they're failing a state audit quite badly. Like, boss is not a millionaire if this isn't fixed kind of badly. They have all the information they need. Of course it's on my company email account's Google Drive. I'm not going to tell them this. Once he pays me for half a year's work, I'll gladly spend the hour or so of time it takes to transfer all of the data he needs to a flash drive, wait until Monday of next week, and then hand it to his receptionist. Really, the man couldn't have been nicer. He's already covered me going to college full-time for over a year, and is about to cover another 2 semesters. I should buy him a cake. Not my job or my job. Make up your mind. I used to work for a major aircraft manufacturer, thanks 2020. I was still pretty green at the time. This was about 5 years ago, having came into the industry with absolutely zero experience after running away from retail management. I was on the manufacturing side of things and started at the very bottom, debur in fabrication. My job was to take parts that came hot off the machines and get rid of sharp edges, scratches, etc. Basically make them safe for handling and ready for the next process. Easy but super fast-paced and dirty work. I was really good at my job. Now, being in a facility with over 10,000 employees, the systems aren't perfect. Each order/part has a checklist of processes that follows it until it terminates and becomes a larger assembly. Each individual action on that checklist is assigned a certain amount of hours some engineer decides is how long it should take to complete. Once complete, inspection buys the order and sells it to the next shop. We are to do no work that isn't assigned to our shop. This part is important. This is how areas monitor their budgets, but it's wildly inaccurate. Some parts would take 10 minutes and pay 20 hours, while others would take 12 hours and pay 30 minutes, but they said it all evens out at the end. Now for the fun bit. In training, my lead explained that a couple of managers had a sort of handshake deal that we would do their process in order to streamline specific parts. These parts would travel across campus, a mile or two, just to have a vinyl-like protective coating peeled by hand and then returned. They always got damaged in transport, so they cut out the middleman to save time and materials. So these parts come in and I peel and process them without issue. We get a new hire who I relay the information to. He forgets to peel some small parts, and they make it all the way to production. Because this is union work, there's a lot of not my job, not my problem. No one else peeled the parts. The painters painted over this protective coating that's only held on by static. Now if we scrap a part in our area, the cost is negligible, usually, as they haven't been processed. But the further along the parts get, the more expensive they become due to all the labor. They scrap about 30 of these things at about $200/EA. Our manager and her boss come back furious, but he's new so he gets a verbal warning. My turn. I get a big part, about the size of a Miata, but 1/4 thick flat aluminum. Already expensive just because of the sheer size, and it's gone through several processes already. I peel it and notice a giant wave right in the middle. The part is not usable. I call my lead over and he agrees, so he calls the manager. Manager waddles over and asks who TF peeled this? I tell her that I did, because it's in the paperwork. She calls her boss and tells him I'm incompetent and to come see what I did. He asks the same and why. I explain the understanding we had with the previous shop, and that if I did not peel it, no one else would, and it would get to the end of the line, be scrapped, and I would get written up. He huffs and they puff, but don't write me up because I had already accepted a promotion to another area and would be out of their hair soon. They give us strict instruction to no longer honor that understanding. I got that same big part a couple days later as a replacement for the scrapped one. I do my best to debur everything and leave the coating on. Sure enough, about a week later, guess who's waddling over? The director of fabrication and his 2 underlings. You want to explain to me why you cost us $20,000? Me ** confused you signed off your job as complete on this part, shows me a photo of a painted parts that had been permanently attached to a fuselage section, but did nothing. It made it all the way to assembly without being peeled. This was already a rush because the last one got scrapped too. Me * both of your managers informed me that peeling is not my job, and that I would be written up for doing so. Me peeling the part was the reason the last one was scrapped, even though peeling revealed a structural issue with the part that was present. I explained this exact situation would happen, but was told the same again. Manager * you're getting a write-up. I never said that. It's your job to follow the instructions on your sheet, you should know that by now. Me * show me on my work order where it states this shop is responsible for peeling this part, and I'll sign whatever you want. A couple days later, the director sends an email to our shop that our manager is being transferred to another area, and to hold all parts this understanding pertained to until they could alter the instructions forms for all of their work orders. Thankfully that was my last week, and my next area was infinitely slower paced, cleaner, climate controlled and more laid back. No more metal dust covering my clothes, hair and inside of my nose. Too lazy to do your own reading and getting me to do your job for you? Okay. I'm a trainee at my company in an industry that I haven't worked in before. I'm getting a hang of the job and the many things that are a part of it. I have to know pretty much where everything is and what is available at a moment's notice, and be ready to alter planning straight away. The more I'm getting into it, the less time I have for other bullshit. Still being a trainee, a lot of people within the company who have established cozy positions are still taking advantage of me as the do everything I can't be bothered to do guy. I'm also computer literate in a company stacked with dinosaurs, which also doesn't go in my favor. The other day, I was being asked about a few invoices for vehicle repairs that the person in accounts couldn't be bothered to even read properly and think for a second to put two and two together. A few back and forth emails and phone calls where I gave one-word answers due to not wanting my time to be wasted, but the final straw was when they asked me which vehicle it was all for. I'm very fastidious when it comes to putting things like this into our system, so this information could not have been any clearer to someone who was actually bothered with doing their job and reading the orders and invoices. I calmed down and politely said that it was for vehicle XYZ, and that it was in the order detail and on the invoice from the provider. I was berated and told you need to make sure that is always in the order detail. It was. So today I decided to jump the gun when I got an email from our provider asking for an order number. This isn't actually part of my job description, but the provider knows that if they ask me directly, they'll get it faster because I'm not lazy. I knocked together an order, and instead of my usual attention to detail, I decided to make this crystal clear to everyone who was going to be seeing this downstream. Now, in giant letters on the order detail is a big ugly paragraph that says Vehicle XYZ. 1 coolant pipe for Vehicle XYZ. The dump truck. That is Vehicle XYZ. Vehicle XYZ is the registration of this dump truck. That is Vehicle XYZ that is on the invoice. Vehicle XYZ. One funny phone call from the provider asking about the weird paragraph, and I explained that there was some confusion over what vehicle the repairs were for last time. Even though it is in giant letters on the invoice and order. Followed by a salty email from accounts asking if I'm taking the piss. To which I said not at all. I just don't want there to be any more confusion between our orders and invoices. We are diligent professionals after all. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.